Well, greetings, America. Um, Today would be Thursday, the 7th of January, 2021. And I'm going to say this out loud to make sure that I'm tracking. It is still the third decade of the 21st century. Yeah, I think in the last post last video I made, I said that I'm not necessarily looking towards 2021 with optimism. Well, apparently whatever happened yesterday does nothing more than to support my opinions. Um, to be quite honest, I don't know completely what happened. Um, Fortunately for me, I'm back at work. In fact, I have to clock in here relatively soon, but I had other things to positively distract me from the jackassery that ensued. The only thing I will say is this. As I was scrolling through Facebook, I've seen a myriad of comments, and a lot of people, the majority of people on my Facebook feed are somewhere in the middle. They're not happy with what happened, but they're not like really on a particular side per se. And I'm kind of paraphrasing this, so I apologize again if I kind of stammer along here. I definitely have some friends, and I've found that the vast majority of my friends that lean to the left are either from back home from high school or at least live in a northern state. The majority of them being from Illinois, where I'm originally from. And then the majority of my right leaning friends tend to be prior military, with a very small portion of them being from where I'm from back in Illinois. Uh, I I wish I could say I was surprised, but I'm not. Um, I've seen on one particular friend's feed, everybody wanted to blame the current president, Donald Trump. Um, okay, sure. Uh, I think that is completely symptomatic of the majority of media outlets. And I've said this in previous videos, so I don't want to necessarily repeat myself and, basically make the same video, 20 different times. Media bias, I think, is the ultimate virus that plagues America. While I'm not discounting the effects of COVID-19 for those that it has negatively affected or those at risk, I think the real virus in America is the media. Um, we have Democratic elected leaders from the Democratic Party like Harris, the soon-to-be vice president, Ayanna Pressley, Nancy Pelosi, Maxine Waters, the entire squad, and probably some that I missed, that either directly or indirectly called for protest, violence, insurrection, revolutionary style behavior, basically, for lack of better terminology, antagonizing civil unrest and or violence towards non-democratic sympathizers. And yet, in the excessively biased media, cool. Because if you're to believe the narrative of the excessively biased media, then if you're anything but a heterosexual white American, because I don't know how else to classify it, I'm paraphrasing this, but if you're a heterosexual, I'm guessing church-going Caucasian American, then you are currently the enemy of everybody who is not that. So if your pigmentation is anything other than Caucasian, if your sexual preference is anything but heterosexual, uh, And then from there, I mean, I understand there's different pools of thought as far as gender identity. So if you don't conform to the uh, gender identity of male or female, then once again, those that do are your enemy. So the bottom line is the Democrats, just like they did in the past. So for those of you that at least have the, what's the word I'm looking for? Because I don't want to use accusatory tones. For those of you that can at least accept the premises that you can do your own research, you can read, and you can study on your own. The very first civil war fought in this country was initiated by the Democrats. Uh, for those of you that may not understand, the Confederacy, which was the former Confederate states that succeeded from the Union, created their own political system and their own political party known as the Democratic Party. Why we kept that party, I'll still never know. It's the equivalent of Germany keeping the Nazi Party. But that party, I guess, during the Reconstruction era, um, continued to persist. I'm even getting a text from the wife. What does she has to say? Oh, someone is asking. Sure. Sorry about that, folks. Life never stops. Um, in conversations I've had previously with people, for people for people of color or for people who go outside of previously considered traditional norms, while I don't think that the current Democratic Party is exactly a spitting image of the Democratic Party of the Confederacy, some of which for obvious reasons, um, I don't think their policies and or their tactics are that much different, because for a party that wants to pave the way for illegals to have benefits over veterans, for a party that wants to pave the way for uh, greater welfare prosperity, for a party that wants to create equal outcomes versus opportunities. The one thing you have in America is you're supposed to have the opportunity. Now, there are people who don't believe that. There are people who, whether it's because of the media or because of their elected leaders or because of their social circles, they don't believe that there is opportunity. They believe that they're oppressed. But I digress, because this conversation can bounce all over the place. At the end of the day, what I find disheartening is, based on the events of whatever happened yesterday, I'm guessing what may have started out as a protest, um, some jackassery ensued. Well, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't the exact same thing happen with the other side? So people who lean towards the left, whether they identify as Democrats or not, when they were protesting, other people took advantage of the opportunity. Bottom line is, when you have something such as a protest, all right, there are people who are there for the protest. And then you're more than likely going to attract people who are not there for the protest. They're there for something else. They're there to either wait for chaos to ensue so they can take advantage of it, or they are there to sow the seeds of chaos for themselves to take advantage of, or for others to take advantage of. And the other option too there is to make the lawful protesters look unlawful. And this was said numerous times about the BLMs and the Antifa protests, that there were people that were law abiding and doing the right thing, but then other people got involved. Um, the problem is the media doesn't want to play it both ways. And that's what I think has been the hardest thing. So ignoring the fact that other Democrat elected leaders, elected lawmakers, have basically been sowing the seeds of hate and sowing the seeds of violence, they've been supported and touted as heroes in the media. And then Trump has been lambasted by the media. One of Trump's biggest problems is he tries to play the Democrats' game. He tries to play their game and beat them at their own game. And because he's Trump, he is lambasted for it, and he is touted as evil for doing it, which admittedly probably not the way to go, but it is what it is. Um, what I find disingenuous is in the event that right-leaning people, whether they're Republicans or not, when right-leaning people basically imitate in any way, shape, or form the exact same thing that left-leaning people have done, now all of a sudden it's horrific. It's embarrassing. It's all these negative virtues. Yet, and I don't seem to understand why, unless if you're east of the Rocky Mountains, you prescribe to a certain level of thinking that the country's divided in half at the Rocky Mountains, and those of us that are east of the Rockies are expected to conduct ourselves better. Actually, I think I can kind of sort of get on board with that, but I digress. Um, because what happened in Portland, Oregon, and is possibly still happening in Portland, Oregon, and what's happened and or is still happening in Seattle, and what's just happening in California, period. There's no there's no real rhyme or reason for that. There's no excusable um, purpose for that. I'm sorry if my words are lacking, but there's no excuse for that. And yet, there's just people exercising their frustrations from all the years of oppression and blah, 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 blah. So then, if people who lean towards the right are expressing their frustration, why is it all of a sudden evil? Because they're not on the left side of things? At the end of the day, people, here's what we need to be careful of. We need to understand that the media is the virus, and we have to understand the dynamics of that. The First Amendment of the United States is not just the cure, but it's also the cancer, because the freedom of the press, which is one of those rights guaranteed within the First Amendment, means that the press has to be privately owned. It can't be owned by the government, because then it becomes propaganda. But if the press also has its own personal agenda, if the press has its own political agenda, social agenda, well, then it's become the same entity we were trying to prevent. They're pushing propaganda. They're pushing psychological warfare. They're attempting to uh, coerce the masses. And for all intents and purposes, they are. The overwhelming majority of media outlets that are supposed to report the news have a left-sided agenda. And I mean, if you're already on the left, there's nothing I can say that can convince you. You're either too entrenched in your own confirmation bias, or you're suffering from scomartia. Your mind is actively seeking out evidence to support your ideology. So if you're already on the left, and you have zero desires to be anywhere in the middle, there's nothing I can say or do that's going to convince you. Just like all I'm really asking is for rational human beings, rational Americans, to see the forest through the trees and recognize the hypocrisy, and also recognize our leaders are failing us. Okay? I mean, my limited understanding of everything that took place is because of the runoff election in Georgia, in which case I've heard limited amounts of information, but it sounds like it was the same old thing all over again. In the 11th hour and 59 minutes, massive amounts of uh, ballots, um, you know, miraculously showed up, and were like 97% for the Democratic Party, which I'm not aware that's ever happened in history. But, again, I talked to a good friend of mine who, I don't know which way he leans per se. I just know that he's very, very, very anti-Trump. But he's still a good friend of mine, and I respect the fact that he's got an opinion. I also respect the fact that he's probably been exposed to things I'm not exposed to, therefore that's why his opinion is the way it is. And we both share the concept that election meddling has always happened. I don't know if we agree or disagree on the scale of meddling, but we agree that meddling has always happened. Just we may disagree on the scale. So, it's my understanding that most of this ensued because of the results of the election in Georgia, which, whatever. That I can't say that I'm shocked. I can't say that if there was some form of election meddling, I can't say that if the Democrats were attempting to steal it, I can't say that I'd be shocked. That tragically, from my experiences in life, the vast majority of people who participate in social type programs, social work, volunteerism, tend to be left-leaning sympathizers because there's been this mantra that essentially the left is the party of the disenfranchised. And I've made a couple of videos, expressing my opinion on the subject. What, are you going to get involved in making a video now? Huh? Are you going to make the video now? Sorry. I don't know. I don't know that the way forward is to maintain the current status quo. If you ask me, and this may be completely unpopular, but we need to get rid of the Democratic Party altogether. In a conversation I had with some friends, you're a stinker. A conversation I had with some friends, the comparison was made to, for people of color and people who basically are non-heterosexual Caucasian Americans, for those people to vote for the Democratic Party is like the Jews voting for the Nazi Party, because somehow the media has convinced them that they're different, that they've really changed, Or another friend of mine made the comparison. It's like the girl in the abusive relationship who can't leave the guy who beats her. No, he's really sweet, and he's really not like that. Because historically, it doesn't add up. But I digress. I don't think our current parties are the way forward. If you look at the history of our country, we've had change. The Republican and Democratic Party are not the original party of the Founding Fathers. And for those of you that want to argue how imperfect the Founding Fathers were, that's fine. You're free to do so. But look at the current status of things right now. All right? I've made this argument before. Breaking free of our tribal camps. Right side, left side, right side, left side. Well, maybe we should try something new. I don't know, maybe we should try some different things like forward and backwards instead of left or right. I don't know. But more importantly, I'm interested to hear what you have to say. So for the 5 or 6 of you that watch these videos, please leave a comment. Tell me what you think, whether you leave a comment in the form of a written comment or if you want to post a video responding to this. I'm very interested in what you have to say because I'm telling you, I've seen a lot of people calling for civil war, and I don't know if there are any other peaceful solutions to what is currently going on, because if you keep pushing narratives so hard, you have people that are believing them. You have people that are drinking the Kool-Aid and getting drunk off of it, and they're going to go from thought to action. And it's that could eventually lead to a second civil war. So unless we do something about it, unless we wake up, I don't know. But hey, let's get this conversation going. That's all I got. For those of you that do this stuff, you know what to do. Hit like, hit dislike, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell if you want to be notified and when this is making more videos. Till then, I'll see you later.